What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Israel Adesanya wants to rematch Sean Strickland next. It's not clear when and who Israel Adesanya fights next, but former fighter turned coach Tim Welsh believes that Izzy is hoping to run it back with Sean Strickland. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Adesanya's second reign as the UFC's middleweight champion came to an end at the hands of Strickland, who recorded a decision victory over him in September of 2023. At the time, it was considered a pretty notable upset, as Izzy was coming off a knockout win over Alex Pereira, arguably his biggest win to date. But as it turned out, the loss to Strickland would be the first of 3 straight for the last stylebender, as he dropped bouts to Dricus du Plessis and more recently, Nasruddin Imavov. So while discussing Adesanya's next bout recently on his YouTube channel, Welsh said the following.
He's kind of enjoying his life. Before, he was just like taking all these back-to-back fights. If you look at some of the old pay-per-views, every other pay-per-view he was the headliner of. And he's taking some break, and it seems like he's just in a really good headspace.
That's good.
Good headspace. It seemed like he was wanting that Strickland fight back. They said, I mean, not excuses and stuff, but that was a very, his knee was up. He was just so burnt out. It was just a bad night where he didn't show up.
Now, given Strickland has dropped 2 of his last 3 fights, one could certainly argue a rematch with Adesanya makes sense. But what do you think? Do you see these two throwing hands again? Rampage Jackson altercation. Rampage Jackson was live streaming with his cameraman at a bar when his cameraman was pushed by a random guy. This made Rampage go off on the guy by forcing him out of the bar. Here's the clip.
Hey, come here. Did you just push him?
Yeah, he pushed me.
Why?
He pushed me.
Hey, he got the he didn't push you.
All right.
Get the out of here if I you up. I watched everything. You hey, don't you ever touch my cameraman.
Merab Dvalishvili talks about Sean O'Malley rematch. During a recent interview with an influencer named Sneeko, Merab talked about his rematch with Sean and how it's going to be harder this time. Here's what Merab had to say.
Do you think it's going to be easier or harder than the first fight?
It's gonna be harder for me. I mean, if it's easier, it's good. But I have the preparation for the hard fight, and this way, you have to train for hard, and you make it look easy. But if I'm thinking, like sometimes it's hard even for me to training hard because I know I beat this guy.
You have to psych yourself out.
Exactly. I have to be still hungry. I have to remember it. First time I was challenger and I was game and I was hungry and I was disciplined and I was but like you said, like he takes one punch. If I make any mistake, if I should go, O'Malley can
That's great. Yeah.
He has some chokes.
His jiu-jitsu is underrated too. I think his jiu-jitsu is pretty good.
Michael Bisping talks about what's next for Islam Makhachev. There's been extensive talk that the UFC wants to book a fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, even though the latter has repeatedly dismissed the idea. But even if Makhachev plays hardball and moves up to welterweight, Michael Bisping believes the UFC will steer clear of stripping the champion. Now that Topuria has vacated the featherweight belt and is moving up to lightweight, everyone and their dog is talking about whether he could face Islam next, even though that the lightweight champ has argued that defeating another notable featherweight does nothing for his legacy. Islam has already defeated the legendary Alexander Volkanovski twice. Further, Makhachev has repeatedly expressed his desire to pursue the welterweight belt. So, in a recent video that Bisping shared, while taking a lovely boat ride no less, the Count weighed in on the situation.
Because he is such a great champion, because he has taken short notice fights, because he's the most successful lightweight on planet Earth in the history of the sport, there ain't going to be any crazy talks of stripping Islam Makhachev. That just isn't going to happen.
Do you agree with Bisping, and who do you ultimately think Islam will fight next? This could depend on whether Belal Muhammad, Islam's buddy, beats JDM at UFC 315. If JDM takes the belt, many believe that Islam will actually move up and ask the UFC to have him face the Australian for the title. Recently, JDM appeared on the Grin Reapers podcast. When asked whether he would be down to fight Makhachev and what would be his first bout as the welterweight champion, JDM made it clear he would be down.
Islam, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, and he even wants to come get your
that'd be nice.
come have a taste of the Della, eh?
How crazy is that how things can move. You beat Belal, then Islam comes up and you can ice him.
Yeah. in Perth.
That would be amazing.
Story, like,
Volk for Mitch.
Yeah. You'll be the most hated man in the Middle East.
You know, anything's possible, eh? But get through below, and then I think, I guess just opportunities will present themselves.
It's going to be fascinating to see how all of this plays out. Jack Della Maddalena defends Belal Muhammad's fighting style. Not everyone is a fan of Belal Muhammad's wrestling-centric style, but it sounds like the man who will face him next, Jack Della Maddalena, won't be using that as a means to trash the welterweight champion. JDM has been booked to fight Belal at UFC 315 on May 10th. The fight will mark the first time Muhammad has fought since his wrestling and Top Game ended the reign of Leon Edwards in July 2024. Although Muhammad has defeated numerous top-tier welterweights at this point, the champion has taken heat from fans for his fighting style. But when Della Maddalena was recently asked about Belal's style while speaking with the Grim Reapers, he noted Muhammad is a winner.
Yeah, not the most exciting guy, but so he's good at winning, you know. A lot of the people that are good at winning, they're not always the most exciting people. Like GSP, I think he copped a bit back in the day. Like people would say he's a bit boring. And then like once the career's done, then you look back and you go, oh,
It was more that he was exciting, but then once he started having all these records, he just had to win.
Yeah.
So he just started doing anything to win, hey?
So I think he's good at, Belal was good at winning, but yeah, I think he's there. He's shown that he can be beaten. Yeah, so I think it will get him.
Do you agree with JDM's comments here and his comparison with George St. Pierre? Fighting style aside, recently Muhammad provided an update on his training camp. The champion reported that UFC veterans Jared Gordon and Gerald Meerschaert, as well as PFL tournament finalist Magomed Umalatov, are some of the fighters helping him prepare.
Habib, best cardio in the UFC. I just got a couple new training partners that came in. Magomed Umalatov, who's a monster. Shout out to him for coming down here and helping me. Ramiz Brahimaj's been coming down helping me, and my boy Jared Gordon, who's my brother, who's been with me for so long. He just came down this week, helped me out. I got a lot of people around me that want to see me win. Gerald just fought a couple weeks ago. He's back in the gym helping me. So it feels good, man. If the energy in the room feels good, mentality of the room feels good. Yair just got a huge win for us. So the team's riding high right now, and I want to just keep it going.
Movsar Evloev reveals game plan for Alexander Volkanovski fight. There are plenty of reasons to believe that Movsar Evloev will be the next man up for Alexander Volkanovski, and recently he outlined how he plans to defeat the legend. Before Volkanovski reclaimed the featherweight belt at UFC 314 by defeating Diego Lopez, he said he'd call for a fight with Evloev if he became champion again. After all, Evloev has never lost, and he's gone 9-0 in the octagon. Recently, the rising Russian star was a guest on the Overdogs podcast. When Evloev was asked about how he would attack Volk, he said this: "If I face Volkanovski, I'll just push him to the wall so he can't run from me. I won't let him move, and then he'll have to exchange with me. So then he will tire, or I'll break him, because I know I have bigger power, better wrestling, and I can control this guy for 5 rounds or finish him on the ground." Sounds like a plan, given Volkanovski's impressive footwork and striking game. Do you see Evloev ending Volkanovski's second reign as the featherweight king? Now, Evloev was also asked about whether he might explore moving up to lightweight if he wins the featherweight title. He was also asked about the possibility of facing the man who currently sits on the lightweight throne, Islam Makhachev. Evloev quickly shot down the possibility of facing his friend. "This guy can me because he's my older brother. I would never fight him. People want to see the fights, big level guys, but when they are close to each other, when they're like brothers, I don't think that's a good idea to make them face each other." Fair enough. Now, if Evloev and Makhachev weren't friends, and they did fight, do you think Movsar would have a shot? Dana White details old altercation. If you follow Dana White over the years and have watched him talk to the media after UFC events, you know that he often has to ask reporters to repeat the question, or ask the staffers what the question was. Well, that's because the UFC CEO lost hearing in his left ear after getting jumped by a bunch of guys way back in the day. Recently, Dana White was a guest on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, and he reflected on the attack. Not only that, he recalled how the lawyer for one of his attackers called him on the phone, which gave him the opportunity to deliver a fiery warning.
And they think that I'm going to show up in court and testify against them. First of all, I never was in contact with the police or anything like that. And basically I said, wait a minute, are you the lawyer for the kid that he's like, yes. And I said, is he there? And he's like, yeah. I said, put me on speakerphone. So he puts me on speakerphone, and I said to this guy, you and your friends, all 30 of you jumped me, and beat on me for 30 minutes. And I said, and nothing was wrong with me the next day. I was there, I tell this whole thing. And if I ever see you again, and it won't be in court, I promise you that. And then I hung up on those guys.
Well, good.
It's not the only interesting story that White has from his days back in Massachusetts. Case in point, he ultimately headed to Las Vegas and his future MMA endeavors, after apparently being threatened by associates of the infamous crime boss James Whitey Bulger. UFC updates. Let's take a look at some UFC updates. Marcel Dorff recently reported that the UFC's April 26 card in Kansas City has been hit with a change, as Ahmad Hassanzada has withdrawn from a fight with Evan Elder. Stepping in is Dana White's Contender Series alumnus Gage Young. Dorf also recently reported the following regarding a reported bout between Ju Sang-yo and Yadier Del Valle. Got told seconds ago that the Yu vs Del Valle fight was supposed to happen on May 17th during UFC Vegas 106, but unfortunately it's not happening anymore. Iridium also took down the announcement. Real Kevin K recently reshared a post from Eileen Perez, who believes she has what it takes to defeat the legendary Amanda Nunes. Perez is coming off a decision victory over Carol Rosa in January and has won 5 straight fights. In addition, Real Kevin K recently posted that Fares Ziam is teasing he's gonna battle lightweight contender Mateusz Gamrot next. Ziam recorded a decision win over Mike Davis in February to extend his winning streak to 5. Meanwhile, Gamrot hasn't fought since last August when he lost via split decision to Dan. And Real Kevin K also recently reported that Ludovic Klein has said he could be returning to the cage this coming June. No date confirmed, and the opponent has not signed the contract, reportedly, but Klein expects the fight to be announced soon. Klein recorded a decision win over Roosevelt Roberts in his last fight, which took place in September. The Slovakian fighter has won 4 straight. Concerns rise for Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. Industry insiders have speculated that the UFC is hoping to have Khamzat Chimaev battle middleweight king Dricus du Plessis in the headliner of UFC 317. But one of the most experienced reporters in the game has heard that DDP will not be fighting at International Fight Week. And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. Chimaev is undefeated, and he's expected to challenge for the belt next. As noted, there's been extensive talk that DDP versus Chimaev is planned for UFC 317, but veteran reporter Kevin Iola recently posted a story in which he relayed a quote which stated, "I'm hearing Dricus du Plessis is injured, and though there has been no confirmation if that's accurate, a bout between du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev could not headline IFW. If this is accurate, the UFC needs to scramble to find a new main event for the June 28th card. Historically, the UFC tries to book a massive fight for its International Fight Week event. Iola went on to say in the article that he believes the UFC is going to call on Islam Makhachev to fight at the event. Previously, it was speculated the reason Makhachev's next bout has not been announced is because he's waiting to see what goes down in the May 10th fight between welterweight champion Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena. The theory is that if Muhammad wins, who is Islam's training partner, he will hold off on moving up to welterweight. So the way Iola sees it, a fight between Justin Gaethje and Makhachev could be booked for UFC 317. Although there's been endless talk about Ilia Topuria fighting Makhachev, Islam and his team have repeatedly said that they're not keen on that matchup. The reason is because he's already beat another featherweight all-star, namely Alexander Volkanovski, twice. In fact, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Makhachev's longtime friend, recently repeated this. Further, Iola noted that Topuria has yet to establish himself as a big pay-per-view draw, whereas Gaethje has been involved in numerous big fights. Well, all that makes sense. However, recently, Khabib raised eyebrows on Instagram by posting a picture of a bull and then reportedly adding, quote, "He's coming strong." If you don't know, Topuria's nickname is El Matador. So could this mean that Makhachev has indeed agreed to throw hands with Topuria at UFC 317? What do you think? And which fight would you rather see? Makhachev versus Gaethje or Makhachev versus Topuria? All that aside, it remains to be seen if and when Chimaev and DDP fight. Khamzat Chimaev seems to have confirmed the reporting because he reacted on social media just a couple of hours ago, writing, "This guy big as